we will start lying down on our backs. You don't need the blanket today on the mat. You can have your feet on the ground with the knees bent, feet a little wide, and the knees can lean towards one another. They might touch, they might not. It's not a big deal. You find your comfortable position, right? You can also extend those legs all the way out to straight. I say it every single time because I think it bears worth repeating every single time. Don't assume that your body feels best in this one thing every single day, every time you're ever here. Play with what that is, right? So find the position that your body would like this morning. And palms up. And if you're like, well, it feels a little easier here, but I should extend my legs out to straight. That's the kind of stuff that I'm always like, more to my friends who just joined. That's the kind of thing where I'm always like, why? Why is that? Because you think you should be in pain, because you think you should suffer, because you think you don't have a support system. So maybe tune into that. And maybe if it feels more supportive to have the feet on the ground, maybe you do that today, and vice versa, of course. Today we're going to go ahead, and although we have our elbows out a little bit, so we find that beautiful broad collarbone, shoulder blades down the back. Now that doesn't change, but I'd love for you to bring your hands onto the body. Maybe one on the belly, one on the ribs somewhere, right? Don't go reaching for them so much you pick your elbows up off the floor. You can just have them in on the sides of the body, we'll say. Pardon me. And so start to tune into the breath underneath your hands. And if you have one on your belly and one on your ribs, start to see if it's available, if you can invite the breath to move down to the belly, and the hand on the belly lifts first, and then the hand on the ribs lift. And just play with what that is. Don't let it be too effortful. And on your exhale, we would reverse that, right? You would maybe feel the hand on the ribs just slowly start before the hand on the belly started to float down. Between the two hands is the diaphragm, our thoracic diaphragm. We have a couple in our body. And the diaphragm is the main workhorse of your breathing apparatus. And you're probably not going to feel the movement of the diaphragm necessarily, but just tuning into that really strong sheath of muscle that lays horizontally across the low floating ribs when we're standing. And if you can find that beautiful rhythm of the breath that I was talking about, the hand on the belly rising, then the hand on the ribs, right? And then the hand on the rib falling, then the hand on the belly, I am 99.9% sure that means your diaphragm is working. Not meaning, I mean, it's working. We're all breathing every day, meaning that it is actually asking, we're asking it to strengthen by using this breath. That is a better way for me to say that. Nobody get nervous, your diaphragm's not working. It is, you're breathing. And then do still scan through the body. But the thing that I love about the breath is quite often when we come to this soft belly breath, if we approach it with minimal effort and we just, our body naturally starts to soften. But you may find that your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are at your ears, whatever it might be for you. Maybe you're pushing down into your thoracic area, etc. So just check in and try to soften all those bits and pieces in your body. And then we'll start our physical movement. Go ahead and tee those arms out to the side. If your legs were extended, bring your feet up and walk them wide. If your feet were already there, just separate the knees so that we have the knees over the ankles-ish, right? Take an inhale, we're gonna go to windshield wiper. Exhale, the knees will just fall, gently fall over to the right. And inhale the knees up. And exhale, let those legs swoosh over to the left. So just starting to wake up our hips, our thighs. Inhale up. Take that on your own rhythm, your own breath. You might let the knees turn to the right and turn the, as the knees go to the right, the head turn to the left and come back up. I'm a little off on speaking today, so I might be countering myself as we go. As your knees go to the left, your head would turn to the right. So again, just kind of find your rhythm. If you find that you're starting to move quickly, I'm going to ask or encourage you to slow it down a little bit, right? So that we're still cultivating that beautiful soft belly breath, and we are calming our nervous system down even as we add movement, and especially as we get stronger with our movements, right? Right now it's pretty easy peasy. And then the next time you end up with your knees over to the right, you're going to leave them over there, and we're all going to meet there. So no rush to get there. And once you are there, instead of putting the right foot on the left leg, that's often an option. I'm going to ask for this instead. Can you push your inner edge of your left foot, which is against the ground, out a little bit towards the left edge of the mat, and then hug your left buttocks in? And see if that doesn't extend the front of your left thigh and hip area just a little bit. And then go ahead and release that and just soften to we're still in windshield wiper, right? Neutral, I'm going to call this. And then exhale, push that left heel towards the left edge of the mat to open up the front of the left hip and thigh. And soften that. And we'll do that one more time, pushing down into the inner edge of the left foot to let that left thigh open. And then when you come back, those knees are going to come up, the head will come up, and this time let the knees fall over to the left, head might turn to the right, pause. Again, the inner right edge of your foot is on the ground, awesome. Now gently push the right edge over towards the right foot over towards the right edge of the mat, and see if that doesn't extend the front of your right thigh a little bit, and soften. I like to hug my right glute in a little bit to amplify. So pushing the right foot down, maybe hugging the right buttocks in just a little bit, and soften. Notice if you're getting really grippy and trying to force it. Try to be gentle. And one more time, go up into that thigh stretch, that hip stretch, and come up to neutral. So now we're going to add on to the motion. We're still going to do windshield wiper, but as the legs go to the right, you're going to let that left knee kind of swing past the right knee up towards the chest any amount. That doesn't have to be a huge motion. And then you're going to swing it back down to the left edge of the mat, and the knees will come up. And then the knees are going to swing over to the left and let that right leg kind of continue its line up towards the chest. And I'm demonstrating if it doesn't make sense. And then the foot comes to the outer right edge of the mat. And so that's our new sequence. Yeah. And then after you've seen me do it, if you did have to look at the video, put your head back down, soften your neck and your jaw. And now you know the motion. Yeah. So just go ahead and do that motion for yourself a couple of times. And maybe we start to move it up into our lower backs, maybe even the mid-thoracic. Head can still turn opposite direction if that's feeling groovy. If it's not, I would just leave your head right in the center of the mat and not even monkey with it. All right? And then the next time that you end up over on the right with the left knee kind of towards the chest, pause. See if your right hand can get a hold of the inner edge of your left foot, and then start to straighten that left leg out to the right any amount. The right knee stays bent and on the earth, and we're just starting to say, oh, hi, IT band. Oh, hi, gluteus medius. How are you today? Take one more breath, and bending that right knee, put the left foot on the left edge of the mat, Jiminy Christmas. Let the legs go over to the left. Let that right knee hug up towards the chest a little bit. Left hand might be able to grab the inner left foot. If it can't, you could use a strap, of course, and then push that left heel out. And if the hand can't get to it, it's okay. You can just start to work the leg towards straight. It just gives us a little resistance with which to work, right? Head might be turning to the right. It might not. And again, notice what lights up in your right side of your body. Oh my goodness. Go ahead and bend the right knee, put the right foot back on the mat, bring the knees back up. I'm gonna say ahead of time, thank you for your patience, friends. Go ahead and walk your feet back into hip distance. Let's bring the right knee into the chest and interlace around the shin or behind the thigh. They're both on the table. If you're working with any knee issues, I would go behind the thigh most definitely, right? And as you bring that right knee in, you're gonna rock it just a little bit. So straighten the arms, let the knee move out just a little bit, and then rock the knee in towards the chest again. So we're getting that fluidity part that I was talking about, letting the knee move away and hugging the knee back in, and then keep the knee in. Maybe extend that left leg all the way out to straight. Foot is on the ground, by the way. Pushing that left heel into an imaginary wall at the bottom of your mat. And then interlace behind the right thigh, pushing the right heel up towards the sky. Let's just visit the hamstring while we're here. The leg never has to be straight. The leg can be bent for sure. And then there's this isometric action. It means the length of the muscle does not change. It stays the same, iso, but we contract, right? So you're going to push your thigh into your hands, but your hands are going to pull back into the thigh. That's the isometric action. But that lengthens your spinal column actually, which helps the stretch of the hamstring often. Take an inhale there, and then go ahead and put that right foot down on the ground. Start with the right foot on the ground. Hug the left knee into the chest and interlace behind the thigh or around the shin. They're both quite beautiful. And then from there, we're going to get that fluid movement. So we're going to rock that knee away from us a little bit. I could say straighten the arms. And then with an exhale, you're going to hug the knee down. You can let the low back round for this version, right? And move that forward. So just starting to move around that low back sacrum area a little bit and starting to wake it up. The next time you hug the left knee in, you're going to extend your right leg if that feels okay in your low back. Pushing that right heel into an imaginary wall in front of you, keeping that activity, interlace behind the left thigh and start to push the left heel up to the sky, any amount. Knee can totally be bent, right? And then as we push that heel up, we're going to add that isometric action. So push your thigh forward into your hands, but your hands pull into your thigh. And maybe if we're lucky, we get a little longer in the spine. Maybe the left side body lengthens. And go ahead and put that left foot down on the ground and put the right foot down on the ground. So now we're going to go into a little core warm up exercise, I could say. You're going to bring your hands next to your body. And if your low back starts to take the brunt of any of this, low belly, I'll talk about the muscles we need to support it. But you could also grab the edges of your mat and push your mat forward, and that helps keep your low back long. So that is also an option. Actually, let's all do that the first round. Grab your edges of your mat. Push your mat forward, and do you feel how that lengthens your low back a little bit? It's an extra support system, right? Shoulders down, collarbone broad. Now walk your heels out in front of you just a little bit away from the buttocks bones. So they're a little further away than they normally are when we go towards tabletop. Now tone your corset. There's a corset that runs around the low abdomen, the side body, and the low back. Let all of that really gently hug into the center. Don't make it hardcore, right? And then from there, flexing the feet a little bit, you're going to inhale and lift the right leg up. We're going to try to keep about a 90-degree-ish bend on that knee. So we're not moving from the knee, we're moving from the hip. And the right knee is going to come back down to the heel is going to come back down to the ground. Again, I'm not changing the hinge of my knee. Lift the left leg up, right, into tabletop. And then as you move forward, the heel is going to end up further forward than it traditionally does because we're not switching the bend of the knee. And pull that belly in, let that belly support the lifting of the right leg. So this is our new rhythm. So now you know it. I'm going to ask you to move nice and slow. When we do core work is when we really want to move fast because we want to get out of it. We want to get into those slow twitch muscles. And we're moving two different ways. We're doing concentric and eccentric movements. You don't have to know what that means, but this is really good stuff for your muscles and particularly for the muscles that run over the joints, right? And so the next time that you end up with your right leg up, I'm going to ask you to keep it there and we'll meet there. So if you moved really fast, guess what? You have to hold your right leg longer. Ha 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 ha. I'm a jerk. Now go ahead and start to reach that right heel and lengthen that leg back out like we just did. Imagine your hands behind it. Push your thighs and your hands together. It's imaginary. We're imagining, right, to find the length of the spine. Bend the right knee. Hopefully your low back isn't overarching. Put the right foot down. Now bring the left leg up in a tabletop. Pause. Get that corset support. Push the left heel up any amount. Bend the left knee and bring the foot down. Bring the toes down to the earth. Release your grip on your mat, right? Your death grip. And pause. And just notice the body. If you want to walk the feet out a little bit and lean the knees in, that's a really nice way to soften the hips. They just worked pretty good for you. So that was playing a little bit more with the front line of the hips when we were lifting the weight of the legs. So now I want to play with your back part of your hips and your upper legs. So you're going to leave your feet out in front of you a little bit more than you would for a traditional bridge pose, right? So about where they were last time. But this time the toes get to stay on the earth. And then before we lift up, I want you to go ahead and make robot arms. Your elbows are still on the ground next to the side body or somewhere by the side body, but your fingertips reach up to the ceiling. And if you had to look at the screen for the demo, now get your head back down and soften, right? The neck. Now go ahead and just really gently push down into your shoulders and your arms, and notice how you get a little lift in your chest. So we're gonna come back to that in a second, right? Now, let that go. Notice there's a little bit of distance between the floor and the low back. So that's your natural curve happening in your low back. So turn on your corset, maybe moving into that imaginary block I love so much, right, between the thighs. And then move your elbows and your arms down a little bit. Get that upper back without overextending the low back. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna push into our heels and we're gonna lift our buttocks up. So hopefully your heels are in front of your knees for this version. And then go ahead and move back down. It makes, we're not rolling down, we're keeping the spine the same. I forgot to say that. So try to keep the same spinal column that we had created, and then push into the heels and lift that whole spine up as one unit instead of rolling today. And exhale, keep that spine long as you graze. You're not coming all the way down, you're grazing the earth. Now let's add that piece in. And then lifting up. And I'm gonna be a jerk. When you come down, you're coming down on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're coming up on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this 2 more times. You might be a little bit different timing than me, but try to do what I just did, a count of 5 or so, a pretty slow count, lowering and lifting. As you lift, notice how the hamstring and the glutes are really working to lift your upper body, or your body up, right? And then you're gonna stay up the next time you're up. For a little amplification of that, you're gonna try to come onto the ball mounds of your toes and lift your heels, or leave your feet out in front of you if you can, and feel how those hamstrings and glutes are turning on. This is the back line of the body, right? The hips and the legs. Ooh, bring the heels down. Ooh, lower the legs down, and pause. Now, if you noticed you were cramping a lot during that sequence, I would say you could use doing this sequence on a regular basis. Those muscles might be the weaker muscles. A lot of folks, that's the case. A lot of us have really strong psoas and front hips, but and quads, but our back side of our body is not as strong as the front. So there's an asymmetry, right? Now we're gonna do one more little thing just to learn a little bit about our hips, and then we're gonna take all that with us where we go. This does make sense because we're gonna move with fluid balance, and we'll need all of this stuff turned on, right? So I want you to imagine, if you have a strap, put a strap around your thighs, right? I would make a loop in my strap, and I would put that strap around my thighs, and maybe just for the visual, in case you're like, what are you talking about, chickie, right? Is that I would strap them a little bit above my knee, and I would have them hip distance. You can imagine this and you'll still get the work, I swear to goodness. But if you have a strap, you can use it. Now, I want you to imagine the strap is there, and I want you to push gently out into that strap, right? And as I push out, my legs don't move out because the strap is holding them, right? So there's a resistance. And then hopefully maybe you start to feel how your outer hips, mainly the gluteus medius, is turning on. And if you're like, nope, I don't feel it, really good information for you. You might tap that area and just try to see if you can feel how the muscles are turning on, or even initiate it. Sometimes tapping a muscle immediately turns the muscle on, right? So again, push out into your imaginary strap. I'm gonna take mine off so you don't feel like you're at a disadvantage, right? And I'm pushing out into that strap to try to hug my outer hips in. Now, I should have said this first. Walk your heels back to a traditional bridge. Forgot that part, sorry. Move out into your imaginary strap, and then go ahead and, without grabbing the mat, robot arms is good, roll up. This time we're rolling up, but we keep moving out into that strap, and then stay up. Move out into that imaginary strap, so that this time we invite our outer hips to be an active participant in the bridge. Take one more breath. And then we're gonna lower down and try to lower down on 5, 4, pushing out into that strap the whole time, and 1, we're on the ground. Now, if that was like, holy moly, those muscles were having a hard time, now you know those might be the muscles. And if you're like, all of them are, welcome to my world. Actually, I can't say that. My psoas are crazy strong. It's ridiculous how grippy they are. They do all my core work for me. Okay, so let's do a twist and come up off our backs. Bring the knees in towards the chest for this twist. You might even rock a little back and forth to let that buttocks move away from you towards the bottom of your mat, spacing, right? TV arms out, inhale, and exhale the knees over to the right. Let's rock with it a couple of times and then we'll land it. Exhale the knees over to the left. Using the right side waist to bring the knees back up, right? And then when the knees go to the right, you're using the left side waist to bring the knees back up. So just moving in a fluid motion from side to side. But do invite that corset and the obliques, they're called the side waist, to participate on the movement of the legs, right? Be aware. Don't just move willy-nilly. And then the next time you're over to the right, you're gonna let those right legs come down, the legs come down to the right, and then maybe turn the head to the left and breathe. So now our legs are soft. We're no longer working our abdominals. We're letting them go. And then we're gonna use those abdominals to bring the legs back up and over to the left. But then once you get there, get those toes down, wherever the legs go is just fine. The knees can come away from the chest. It's not a big deal, but soften, right? Maybe the head turns to the right and then check into all those abdominals, those hips, those quads, all the stuff we've been using, and let them take a moment where they don't have to do a darn thing. And then inhale, right side waist and low belly are gonna help bring you back up. We're gonna grab onto the backs of the knees here and go ahead and rock yourself up. Come into hands and knees. This would be a place where any of my sensitive knee friends would pull in a blanket or a pillow or some such support system, a sweatshirt, you know, be inventive. You're at home, there's all kinds of things around you can use, I'm sure of it. And once you're on your hands and knees, we're gonna go into cat-cow, a traditional cat-cow. Inhale, reaching the chest forward, or classical, I should say. Exhale, pull the belly up, round the spine. And go ahead and move through that a couple of times. And again, if you're someone who tends to move really fast, and I like to call that the zippy, right? If you're a zippy folk, maybe you slow that down a little bit. And then to add to it, we are doing the same exact thing. We're still doing the spinal motions of cat-cow, but then the next time that you reach the chest forward, maybe the right heel lifts up towards the sky. And I'm not trying to hit the sky or anything. And then I pull my knee in towards my chest and I round my spine. So reaching the chest forward, I'm still in spinal extension. I'm just adding the weight of my leg, right? And now I move into spinal flexion, it's called, when I round. So go ahead and do that a couple of times, a few times for yourself. Do not hurt your low back. Don't lift the heels so high if your low back feels like it's getting compressed, or keep the low belly toned up the whole time is the other thing we do to correct that or help that, support that. And then if it feels all right, my friends, you're gonna reach the right heel back, reach the left arm forward, and you can inhale and do a little bit of an extension. If you want to bend the knee a little, you can. And then exhale. Now pull both limbs, moving into cat, spinal flexion, right? And if you're like, no, maybe you just use the right leg. Again, here we are with fluid balance, right? We are balancing on two of our limbs. We've taken two of them away, or at least one of them. And we're getting a lot of core work while we do this, by the way. And then extend all the way out. And this time you are neither flexed nor extended in the spine. Lengthen, 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 and bring that down. Before we do the other side, I vote for a child's pose. Knees a little wide, big toes touch. Give yourself a little rest on the ground. Hips towards the heels. They don't have to be on them or anything, right? And if your hips or knees are hurting today, I would leave the hips a little higher. A blanket behind the knees is also a really helpful tool. I use that a lot with people with knee injuries that I work with, and it's a way to help open the back of the knee so there's not compression. And then we're gonna come up to hands and knees. We still have one more side to do, right? So go ahead and just do a cat-cow. Do two cat-cows, why don't we say? Regular old cat-cows without the weight of the limbs, just so we remember, oh, this is what the spine is doing. When I reach forward, my low belly tones in just a little bit so I keep my low back long. And then the next time that you reach the chest forward, maybe we add just the left leg. And again, for this one, this version, this part, the left knee is bent, right? And I just move it back and forth towards my chest when I round my spine, and back behind me, the knee itself, right, as I extend. So still keeping the spinal motions, but now we're adding in balance, A, and weight, B. Now go ahead and flex the left foot next time it's back there, extend it back behind you, and maybe reach the right arm forward. Now that's hopefully a neutral spine. Now you can go ahead and do a little extension if that works for you, and that can be with bending limbs, that's fine. And then exhale, definitely bend the limbs to hug it all into center, rounding your spine. And so that's our new sequence. The leg doesn't have to be stick straight since we're doing extension and flexion, right? But make sure that you support your low back by keeping the low belly toned in. You don't want to compress your low back for this. It's just not worth it. The next time you go all the way out, you're going to extend. You are neither compressed. No, please don't be compressed. You're neither extended or in flexion, right? Lengthen, 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 lengthen. Bring the hand down. Child's pose. Knees a little wide, big toes touch, buttocks towards the heels. Arms can totally be out in front of you. If it feels like you're getting more benefit having your arms by your side with your palms up, that's also an option. And you're definitely breathing wherever you are. And again, can you find that softness? A few moments between our activity where you get to be soft, right? Where the muscles can integrate everything that we just did, where you can come back to your breath and slow your breath down if your breath got rapid. And I could probably name a few other things off, but those are the main pieces today for me anyway. Moving towards downward dog. Straighten your arms out. Let's have our hands as wide as our mat. For me, mine usually are because I'm a pretty broad-shouldered girl. So you might go even a little wider if you want a little extra width, right? If you're a broad-shouldered folk. From there, you're going to go ahead, pushing down, letting those forearms lift up. We'll inhale up to hands and knees. And of course, you could just stay right there where you were if you don't want downward dog today. Otherwise, curl the toes under and start to reach those hips up and back. Now go ahead and bend the left knee and straighten the right leg a little bit. And then switch that, bend the right knee, straighten the left leg, any amount, never has to be all the way straight. And do that again, but try to keep your spine really long. Try not to let the spine round forward towards the front edge, the head edge of your mat, right? So we're keeping our spinal length the whole time. Now bending both knees, coming up onto your ball mounds of your feet, right? And then from there, before you even think about straightening the legs, I want you to go ahead and I want you to try to lengthen your spine first, right? And then go ahead and start to lengthen the legs, but the heels are still high. And then with whatever legs you have, right, straight-wise, you're going to start to drop the heels down without that back rounding. We're not going into flexion, hopefully, for this. Some of my friends, your low back goes into extension, and you drop your ribs down. So you might have to tone your low belly up a little bit more. Take one more breath. We're almost out of here, friends. And on an exhale, you're going to walk your hands back to your feet, back of the mat. If you were on a blanket, you might take a moment and move the blanket off to the side now. And then hands on the shins, reach the chest forward. Exhale, folding in. And inhale, reach the arms out or hands on hips, coming all the way up to standing. And then exhale, reach your arms out and down. And then come on up to the top of your mat. Okay. So just so you see what it looks like, because it's a different sequence and I haven't taught anything like this in a good long while, I'm going to show you. We'll go through a half salutation. You know that part well enough. I can talk you through it if you don't. And we'll come down here. This is the part where it gets a little funky, right? We're going to be in a lunge with our left leg back, and then we're going to straighten the right leg as we bend the left knee. We'll bend the right knee as we straighten the left leg, and we'll do that a few times just to get fluidity, right? And then at some point in time, and this is the most interesting part that you probably want to see, is that when I start to move forward with that bent right knee, I'm going to try to lift my left leg, and I'm going to try to either hands on hips or arms forward, just depends on bodies. I'm going to keep my right knee bent, and I'm going to come into, you remember Karate Kid crane? Think of coming into crane pose. My right knee stays bent, and that right hip hugging in, and then I'm going to try my darndest to step that back. And then beanie, and then we'll do that again, right? And we're going to try that. We're going to try to do that 3 times. And if you fall or the foot comes down or whatever, it doesn't matter. Play. It doesn't matter. Standing up nice and tall. Get rid of your perfectionism, right? That's one of the gifts of yoga. It has been for me. I'm still a perfectionist, but I'm recovering. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, folding in. Hands on the shins, reaching the chest forward. Bending your knees, planting your hands, and stepping your left foot back. And if you wanted to have blocks here, you sure could, right? So now we're gonna bend the right knee towards the lunge and straighten the left leg any amount. Doesn't have to be all the way straight, right? And then we're gonna straighten the right leg, but we're gonna bend the left knee, yeah? And then we're gonna bend the right knee and straighten the left leg. And it never has to straighten all the way, but I'm gonna stop saying that. You know that now, right? I'm gonna go ahead and straighten the right leg and bend the left knee. And go ahead and find your little rhythm with that. I'd say don't move too zippy. We're trying to counter that. And then one of these times when you start to move forward towards your right foot, you're gonna look forward, reach the chest forward, start to hug the left knee towards the chest. Hands on hips, hands at heart, arms up, doesn't matter. Find the one that works for you and try to lift the left knee up, but try to keep the right knee bent. Holy shit, that medius has to work like crazy right now. And then go ahead and step that back. I swore, hopefully no one's offended. And page back and forth between the bend and the straight leg. But I think that's a pretty big move. That word's my swear word for me today. And then the next time you're moving forward, again, hug the left knee towards the chest, reach the chest forward, try to keep the right knee bent and see if you can thread that through into Karate Kid, right? Crane. And then we're gonna try to reach it back. I like extension. I find it's a super good balance to me right here, but that's my body, not necessarily yours. And we got one more. Anyone feeling their right hip at all? It has to work like the Dickens right now. Go ahead and reach forward, hug the left knee in a little bit, start to extend the chest and reach up, trying to keep the right knee bent into crane. Ooh, thank goodness we're almost done with that. Step it back, last one. Step back to plank, top of a push-up. Go to downward dog if you're like, no way, Jose. Put the knees down if you're like, I want it, but it's an awful lot today, right? Shoulder blades down the back, chest forward, pushing the heels back. And exhale back, let's meet in downward facing dog. And I'm curious if the right upper leg hip area feels any different than the left right now. I can only speak for myself, but yeah, mine sure does, right? Now, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do one more funky thing to get the other leg forward. No, we're not actually. Take an inhale. And on an exhale, come up on your tippy toes, bend your knees, look forward, step forward or jump forward. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise, whatever arm variation works best for your body today. And we bring the arms down by the side and we pause. And you can hear, I'm definitely, my breath, I'm starting to build heat and I'm breathing rapidly. So slow that breath down if you're like me. Second side. Inhale. Exhale, folding in. Inhale that chest forward. And bend your knees, plant your hands. This time the right leg is gonna go back. Now you can just keep toggling back and forth if you don't want to add that balance piece, by the way. But it goes that we bend the left knee and straighten the right leg. Remember, nothing has to be all the way straight. And then we straighten the left leg and we bend the right knee, any amount. And bending left knee, straightening right leg, and straightening left leg, bending right knee. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop saying that, but you know the pattern. You're gonna toggle back and forth between them and just start to say hi to all the leg muscles, all the hips, right? Low back. And one of these times when you start to bend forward in the left leg, put the weight in the left leg, try to hug the right knee towards the chest. I'm doing a drag because that's all I got in me today, and reaching forward. So again, right, we're playing and I'm discovering this side's way harder today. And exhale, we're gonna try and reach the right leg back. Again, I like my arms to reach forward to counter the weight, but that's my body, not yours. And then toggle back and forth between straight leg, bent leg situation, right? As one leg straightens, the other leg bends. And then the next time you start to move forward with the bend of the left knee, bring the right knee in towards the chest and start to come on forward and up any amount in that crane. Keep the left knee bent. This is the best thing you can do for your gluteus medius to work it, right? Lengthen, 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 and set it back down. I'm gonna come peak. You're gonna try and do that one more time. Oh, I think I swear, I had my headset plugged in all day yesterday, but it's beeping at me. So the next time you're feeling ready, when you start to move forward to the left leg, right, you're gonna try to pull that weight forward, bring the right knee in, Karate Kid, keep that left knee bent if you can. It's gonna be more beneficial to the hip even though it's way more of a pain in the ass, I know. Ooh, 2 swear words today. And then send it back when you're ready, your timing. And then we got a downward dog. If you want a plank, you can take a plank for a couple of breaths if you'd like that heat, right? Chest forward, heels back, lengthen, 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 and then meet in downward dog. And we're all on different timings, so you can feel free to still take that plank. Just because I was talking to other people doesn't mean you can't do your own thing. And then downward dog when you're ready. Take a breath there. And we're gonna do that jump or step forward again. So on your tippy toes, bend your knees, look forward, step or jump forward, and reach the chest forward. Exhale, fold. And inhale, come all the way back up. And exhale, arms down. I don't know about all y'all, but I feel very, very alive right through here. So we have one more series in this vein, and then it's cool down time. And we'll be done with the balance, and we'll still move fluidly, but we'll be done with the strength and the balance part. So we're gonna do the same thing. We'll go back, right? We'll be here. We'll be doing this number. We're gonna try to come up to crane. We're gonna try and keep this standing leg bent the whole time. It is definitely easier for a lot of people to do this, but it actually works on more of the muscles I'm trying to strengthen on you if we keep it bent. But if you need to straighten it, straighten it. I'm not gonna take that away from you, right? And then from there, oh boy, we're gonna try to reach towards warrior 3. And we're gonna try and do that 3 times as well. And that will be the sequence. The good news is we don't come up and do that 3 times. We just do it 3 times and then we're gonna go to the other side, right? So standing up nice and tall at the top of your mat. You'll do what you can with what you got. Use a wall if you need to. Inhale, reaching the arms and out. You got backs of chairs and couches. Be inventive. Exhale, folding in. If holding on to something helps you work the muscles in alignment, why not? Inhale, reaching the chest forward. Bending knees, planting hands, stepping left foot back first. And just a couple of times, bending right knee, straightening left leg, and vice versa, just to get the hips nice and fluid. So hopefully they don't get too rigid when we go into this balance business. Now, when you come forward the next time, bending the right leg, you're gonna try and come up into that crane we've been practicing as best you can. Grab onto something if you need to. Now from there, let's bring hands to heart. Actually, I think it's a little bit more accessible of a version. Shoulder blades down the back, and now you're gonna try to reach that left heel back, keeping your long spine, and you'll just kind of teeter-totter forward a little bit. And then bend the right knee and left knee, bring it forward towards the chest. Keep the right knee bent the whole time if you can. I know. Go ahead and lengthen it and straighten it behind you, reaching the chest forward. Think of that plank you've been doing. It's the same posture, right? And bring it forward one more time. This time when we reach it back to warrior 3, we get to try to lengthen, and then we get to try to calmly and collectively set it down as best we can. I was somewhere halfway there. If you want that plank, take that plank. Go to downward dog if you don't. We're gonna go through a vinyasa, some people nickname this. Come forward on your tippy toes, come through your push-up. I'm gonna use my knees. I have plenty of heat going on in my body right now. Inhale, low cobra, maybe upward dog. I'm not gonna teach that today. And then exhale, knees might be down, low belly, low belly, low belly to transition you from plank to downward dog. And breathe. Doesn't seem like this should get so much heat building in the body, does it? Jeez Louise. Inhale. And on your exhale, come up on your tippy toes, bend your knees, look forward, step or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale the chest forward. If you're feeling too much heat, definitely step. Exhale and fold. And inhale, those arms out and up. Exhale, arms down. Last side, and then it's cool down, guys. We're doing a good job. Inhale, reach those arms out and up. Exhale and fold. Inhale the chest forward. And then you're gonna bend your knees and you're gonna step your right foot back. And first we're just gonna do that bend one knee, straighten the other leg business, right? And again, just let those hips be kind of fluid, because what we're doing, we need to keep some fluidity in them. If they get really rigid, it makes it super difficult to balance, right? So now go ahead and next time you're bending the left knee, you're gonna try and start to hug that right knee in. You might bring yourself up into that crane pose. Try to bend the left knee if you can. Grab something if you need to. Hands to heart, let's meet there. Shoulder blades down the back, long spine. It's all our core work right here, right? Now we push that right heel back as we reach our chest forward. Warrior 3, bent left knee. Hug the right knee in towards the chest. Keep the left knee bent if you can. Crane, Karate Kid. And then go ahead and send it back out. Warrior 3. And it doesn't have to be all the way in. Who gives a crap about that? And then bring that right knee up. Keep that left knee bent. That's, to me, actually the most important piece, believe it or not. And then as you send it out to Warrior 3 this time, you get to bring your hands down, step that foot back gracefully as you can. And this will be our last little push-up series. We're going to do the push-up series one more time. Maybe on forward on the tippy toes. I'm going to bring my knees down. If you want to come through your push-up, go to downward dog if you don't, by the way. Inhale the chest forward. And then let's meet in downward facing dog. We'll take 3 breaths, and then we get a child's pose. Inhale. Exhale. Try not to let the spine be in flexion nor extension. You're inhaling. And I think right about here is our exhale. Last one. Take an inhale. And with the exhale, we prepare to come down. Let the knees come down wide, big toes touch, buttocks towards the heels, forehead to or towards the ground. You can always make a fist pillow or bring the arms by the side. But find a place where you can soften, where you can collect your breath, smooth it out, we'll call it. If you need a fluidity in those hips, you can always let the hips just sway a little bit from side to side. Sometimes that helps me release anything that I might be holding on to in my hips and my pelvis and my upper legs and my low back, quite honestly. And then coming back to neutral, you're going to put your hands on the ground and start to bring your body up. Now we're going to go into a little twist where we bring our legs. I'm going to turn and face you just so you can see me, but you can probably just let your hip, right? From there, you would let your hip move over to one side. Let's say my legs are to my left. I should have specified. Sorry about that. And if you're like, oh boy, this is really difficult to sit this way, you might bring a support, a couch cushion, a pillow, a blanket underneath your right hip, right? I'm going to, because it helps me sit up taller, that's for sure. And then from there, we're going to actually end up twisting towards our right, but first let's go to the left for just a moment. So go ahead and bring that right hand to your outer left thigh, or maybe your inner right thigh if you can't quite reach it. Bring your left fingertips behind you and inhale, lengthen the spine first, pardon me. And then you're going to start to twist towards your left, right? The way the legs are. And then go ahead and we're going to twist it the other way. So now come back through center, put your right fingertips behind you, bring your left hand to your outer right leg, it would be, and inhale, get tall, and then you can go ahead and start to move into that twist. Now, I'm not going to use my arms so much that I'm cranking my body in, but I can use them as leverage, if that makes sense. So I like to turn my palm, my left palm away from the thigh and kind of push and glide my arm out a little bit towards my hand towards the knee. And that just helps me find a little more rib rotation, my left rib specifically. Although, let's be honest, the right ribs go on the journey too, right? Take an inhale. Now keep your shoulders and your chest where they are and turn your head to look over your left shoulder-ish. Just wherever you get to comfortably, don't force the neck into anything. And then turn the body forward. Now, you can either come to hands and knees and just switch the legs, or, you know, if you'd rather, you can always bring the legs out in front of you and move them over to the other side. And today we're just doing the staggering where we have one foot against a thigh. Support yourself if you need to underneath that left buttocks. And then we're going to go towards the legs first, right? So towards the right. So I bring my right fingertips back and my left hand might come to that first thigh, or it might reach back to the other. Don't stress yourself to get it, right? Inhale, get nice and tall. On this side, I'm realizing it's easier to be by my closest leg. Exhale, turning towards your right. Take another breath there. Inhale gives you length. And exhaling, softening in, turning yourself forward. Other side. Our left fingertips are going to come back and we're going to bring our right hand to the outside of our left leg. Inhale, get tall first and then start to turn in. And again, if it's a helpful tool, you can turn that right palm away from the thigh and you can just kind of move it and glide it towards the knee. And that might help that right rib cage rotate in just a little more. But don't be really aggressive, right? Don't force your spine into this twist. It's not worth it. Take an inhale. And go ahead and turn the head only on the next inhale towards the right shoulder-ish. Just a little counter twist there. And then go ahead and bring the whole body back. And I have one more hip stretch I want to do. Do I want to do it from seated or do I want to do it from laying down? I think I want to do it from laying down, actually. So just so you see it, stay seated for just a hot second. Some of y'all know this, but just in case. So we're going to do Gomukhasana legs. So it's kind of like thread the needle, but we cross all the way over. We bring the knees in. We might simply hug here, but if you go into the next stage, right, flex the feet and you might grab your shins. And I kind of pull my shins to the back of the room, and I'll talk about regulating it with your heels, right? So that's what it looks like, the shape of it anyway. So if you want a little core on the way down, if you're like, I did so much core for you today, get out of town, just use your elbows and lower down. It's totally fine. I'm not in your core. I don't know what your core feels like today. So let's cross our right leg all the way over our left. Thighs are touching for this version. And if you want to just do thread the needle, that's always on the table. I should say that. So bring those legs in and either interlace around the knee or the knees and just stay there, or flex the feet, bringing the shins back towards the body. And it ends up that my hands grab the opposite shins, meaning my left hand grabs my right shin, my right hand grabs my left shin, but that's really hard for a lot of mental work for most people in this pose, right? So once you get those shins, the thighs can come gently towards the chest, and you can pull the shins back behind you to the wall behind your head. Gently, 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 right? Try to keep your spine as long as you can and try to keep the tailbone heavy. I could say that another way. I could say, is your low back, is there a little space in the floor in the low back? Do you have your natural low back curve? Try. Now you can have your heels closer to your buttocks, and it's usually a little less intense. If you lift your heels up more towards the height of the knees, not beyond the height of the knees, you might get a little more juice, right? Find out what's right for your hips. And this is your outer, I'm not mirroring you, I don't think, so it would be your outer right hip you're feeling. You might feel your left hip too, by the way. And go ahead and release that. Keep the cross of the legs. Right? Tee the arms out, take an inhale. With an exhale, we're going to let the legs go over to the left with this version. And it's kind of like that left leg pins the right leg in just a little bit. And maybe we get a little extra emphasis on that outer right hip, right low back area. You might turn your head to the right. If you're like, I don't care for this twist at all, I would just uncross the legs and stack the knees. That's another option. And then let those legs come on up. Uncross the legs. Other side. So either thread the needle, left ankle, right knee, or the left thigh crosses all the way over the right. You can bring those legs in a little closer to you, right? Either just interlacing around knees or flexing feet and grabbing shins. And then again, I'll encourage you to try to find a long spine and a little bit of that natural lumbar curve. But then, yeah, once you get all that going on, the knees, they come towards the chest gently. I mean, mine are quite a ways away, but that's the general direction, right? That's the energetic action, I'll call it. And then from there, you might pull the shins towards the head wall. You might drop the heels low if it feels too intense, or if you need a little more, you might lift the heels a little higher away from the buttocks. Trying to keep that spine long the whole time and saying, oh, hello, left buttocks. How are you? We worked those glutes like crazy today, by the way. Take an inhale and go ahead and release the legs down, but keep the cross. Tee the arms out, inhale, and this time we'll go to the right. And that right leg kind of pins the left leg in. You might turn your head to the left, and we're hopefully maybe getting a little emphasis on the outer left thigh, hip, low back area. But again, if this feels like more than you'd like, or it just doesn't feel comfortable, uncross the legs. And definitely breathing. That's not an option here. And then with your inhale, you're going to bring that back up to center. Uncross those legs. And let's do one more thing here before we go into Shavasana. And I'm going to let you choose. We just did a twist, but if you feel like you need a twist, a lot of people like to end with a twist. But otherwise, I'm going to suggest Happy Baby. But if there's something that you're like, actually, I'd rather do, I don't know, whatever that is, plow pose. I want to do supported bridge pose. I want to do it, right? Otherwise, just to get in those hips one more time, you might come into Happy Baby. And if you did choose Happy Baby, I'm going to encourage you to rock back and forth if that feels okay. And again, just that fluid motion. We've been playing a lot with fluidity in class. And then you might even pull, if I rock to the right, pulling my right knee down towards the ground. I don't have to touch the ground or anything, right? And as I pull or rock to the left, I pull my left knee just to give a little extra emphasis on that side. And then once you've done that a couple of times, you'll come back to your center. And just to say hi to the inner groin, which we didn't talk to a ton today, but we did use, you might start to reach those heels out and your legs come into the shape of a V, and you can have a bent leg V. That is okay. You don't have to straighten all the way. Again, can your low back gently come off the floor so you have your natural curve, best you can anyway, and take an inhale there. And then go ahead and bend those knees. Why don't we give everything a big squeeze? And I personally sometimes find it helpful to squeeze every muscle. So I might pick my chin up, bringing my chin towards my knees. I might tense my shoulders and my fists and my fingers and my eyeballs and my anus and my toes and my, you name it, squish every muscle you can think of in your body. Take an inhale. And then with an exhale, release every single muscle in your body. And of course, that starts to unfold you out into your Shavasana. Whatever variation you need today, take that one. And if that means shins up on the couch, take a couple moments, do that. Right? Slide shoulder blades wherever they feel most comfortable. So take a few moments. Just because you let go of the muscles doesn't mean you have to be exactly how your body plops down. You can make baby adjustments. And the imagery that I absolutely love, it speaks to me like crazy, is to imagine my torso as a lake, a big old beautiful lake, right? And then from that lake, all of the rivers, which are my limbs, flow out of that lake. And, you know, so much meditation and a lot of the Buddhist teachings and all kinds. I mean, there's a lot of yoga teachings around it too, but talk about there being this really, you know, if there's a lake, yes, you can throw a rock in there and there's a ripple on the surface. But as that rock moves down to the depths are still, right? So imagine yourself as that lake, the bottom, right? Where the stillness is. And you can stay with that imagery today, and you can work with the imagery. If you have a mantra you use, any of that stuff, definitely use it. But otherwise, another tool that I often teach is just that old, every time the mind wanders off, and it will, bring it back to the breath. And for my friends who've been practicing that for a long time, let the practice be that we do that without judgment. We'll be here for about 3 minutes. I'm going to take my voice out and give you the space. I'll be back to talk you out in about 3 minutes. And without changing your breath, bring your awareness to your breath. I think we yoga teachers do a disservice sometimes by constantly trying to coach everybody to do a deep breath. I think that's a good thing to have a smooth breath, to work the diaphragm, but you may notice that when you're really calm, whether that's right now or not, that actually you don't breathe really deeply. Your breath is probably a little more shallow. And there may be even times where you exhale and there's a really long pause your body naturally takes before you even bring in the next inhale back in. So give space, when you find that you're in your parasympathetic system, it's called your rest and digest. And when the breath is not necessarily deep, that doesn't mean it's wrong. That might be your calm breath. And just observe it whenever you do notice it happening. And that might not be a ton right now. We're in some really stressful times. And then maybe do invite that breath to deepen now that we're going to come back into our bodies. Maybe wiggle fingers and toes or stretch arms overhead or any of those motions. And again, just think of that fluidity if that's a helpful tool. And then when you're ready, you can roll to the fetal position, either side. In yoga, we say right, because there's a belief that you don't want to compress the heart, right? Push the floor away. But if you have an injury or something where it's easier for you to get from rolling to your left side, I say do that for sure. Coming to seated or kneeling. I'm going to kneel. And then, just trying to find that so much of what we do with this physical asana, it's called this asana postural practice, is about your spine. Your spine is your main energetic channel. So can you have this beautiful long spine with its natural curves so that all the energy can flow everywhere where it needs to go? Bring the palms together at the heart. Take a big old breath there. And exhale, bow the head in. And I think I'm speaking to some really beautiful, compassionate people. But, during this time of all of the protests and the rebellion, I think a lot about the teaching of ahimsa, which is non-harm. And I think so often we think about non-harm to ourselves, but I've been thinking a lot about how if I just stand by and I watch injustices and I don't do anything, how that can be pretty harmful too. And I think we saw that with the officers who watched. Right. So just food for thought. If anyone wants any kind of resources, like doesn't know what they can do, I've collected a good amount from some really cool thought leaders, and I would be happy to forward them to you. Take an inhale, and let's send out absolute love to everybody who is suffering and in pain right now. Unconditional. Namaste.